The president of e-commerce giant Shopify is betting on Montreal. Harley Finkelstein, who recently moved here, says it's one of the most entrepreneurial cities in the world. And I'm so happy to welcome Harley onto the program. Love your name, Harley, by the way. How can you not love a Harley?
Yeah, I mean, if you know me, you know that I'm not a motorcycle guy at all. I'm a Jewish lawyer entrepreneur, so far from anything Harley Davidson related. But thanks for having. And honestly, your listeners and viewers should know that me coming on is totally about your hustle. You found me on social media. You convinced me to come on the show, and I'm grateful to be here.
Well, isn't that interesting, right? Because this is the story from this week. Because I sent out a post earlier in the week giving kudos to the McGill University student and the Concordia University student that saw things that weren't working well, whether it's recharging an Opus card or signage for the REM, and they said, you know what? I'm taking matters into my own hands. And you reacted to that, and that's how we started talking. But doesn't it come down to it, Harley, why you're picking Montreal? It's that spirit, right, that these two students have. It's part of the reason, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's also the reason why I've dedicated my entire life to, one, being an entrepreneur myself, but also the entire mission of Shopify is to create more entrepreneurs around the planet. And so the Venn diagram overlap of my own personal mission around entrepreneurship and my company's mission is exactly the same. But yeah, the spirit that a bunch of students saw a problem and decided to solve it in a really innovative, smart way. Forget the red tape, forget the bureaucracy, just get shit done. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that. Is exactly what entrepreneurship is all about. So yeah, that tweet that you put out there was inspiring to me. And you're right. I mean, as you and I spoke about through Twitter DMs. My wife and I, Lindsay and I, decided to move back to Montreal. We moved back literally 4 days ago. I've been out of Montreal for 20 years. I was born in Montreal, raised here, but spent a lot of my time in South Florida. And as we were thinking about where we want to raise our kids, Montreal was one of 3 or 4 cities we thought about moving to. But ultimately, it was community and it was culture and it was this entrepreneurial spirit that made the final decision.
So Harley, I will do what I've been told to do in these scenarios. I will apologize for your naughty language on air for our family audience, but it's totally fine. I'm just going to do the apology. I'm sure we get it because we love
it. Is a cultural value of Shopify, by the way. Like we say GSD, but that's actually it is on the walls of our offices.
All right, so Harley, you have other options here. Like Montreal's amazing, right? Montreal is amazing. I'm on board. I'm on Team Montreal. So are a ton of other cities, right? You gave us the sort of Coles notes about your life and where you've been and where you grew up and your connections to Montreal. You had a lot of choices. So what, at the end of the day, what set Montreal above the rest?
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time in South Florida because that's where I went to high school there, a lot of friends and family there. And frankly, Shopify's 2 other hubs are Toronto and New York City. My wife and I, we have a place in Toronto. We love Toronto, but it didn't make the top 3 list. But New York definitely was a consideration for us for some time. And we ended up spending in 2022, about a month in each of the sort of quote unquote finalist cities to figure out where we want to end up. And we ended up spending a month here, May 2022, about 3 weeks or so. We spent living in downtown Montreal, and it was just obvious to us. But there's a couple things. I mean, there's that famous, obviously French term joie de vivre. You feel that here. You feel that there's an intentionality about the people that live, work, and spend their time here. The best example I can give you is, if you go to a chip wagon anywhere in the United States, or frankly most places across Canada, the person serving you whatever they're serving you, they like what they're doing, but I'm not sure it's their life's work. You walk into a place in Montreal, like Casse-Croûte, that is making delicious French fries or hot dogs or burgers. That might be their life's work. And that intentionality around, what I am doing, I'm going to be the very best at, and I'm going to put everything into it. That's how you create culture. The second thing is, my family came to Montreal in 1956. My father was Hungarian, son of Holocaust survivors, came here in the Hungarian Revolution. And my grandfather and grandmother settled here in Chamonix and Laval. My grandfather sold eggs at the Jean Talon Farmers Market for his entire life. He wasn't an entrepreneur out of passion. He was an entrepreneur based on necessity. But there is this spirit here. And I think part of the spirit, the entrepreneur spirit, comes from this is an immigrant city. And I think it's that immigration, it's that culture, it's that diversity that makes it so fascinating. And I think if you think about some of the greatest companies built all over the world, so many of them were started right here. My first business was a t-shirt business on Chabanel. And I remember going to Gentili, which is I don't know if it's still around, it was a small coffee shop in the Chabanel area, and just listening to, people like Sal Parasuco and David Bitton, these incredible people, the Benistis from Point Zero, talking about business. And they didn't know me. I was just some punk 17-year-old kid, but I was inspired by their ambition. And to be in a place that has incredible ambition, but also has a great joie de vivre, there is nothing like it.
We're with Harley Finkelstein, the president of Shopify. Harley, could you have made this decision a few years back when we were all still working in offices? Is part of this decision the reason you can do it because the workplace has changed?
Yeah, so there's no way. I mean, Shopify was. I moved to Montreal. I moved from Montreal to Ottawa in 2005 to go to law school, not to become a lawyer, actually to become a better entrepreneur. And frankly, I was going to spend the rest of my life in Ottawa. That was sort of Shopify HQ. And then the pandemic hit, and this idea of future of work kind of changed things. And our version at Shopify, we have about 8,000 people that work at Shopify all over the world in more than 100 countries. Our version is what we call digital by default, meaning ultimately we want to be a digital company, but it's really this idea of you can work from anywhere you want. And so during the pandemic, people moved to the country, people moved to different cities, people decided they want to work from home full time. But we've created a situation or an environment where people can work wherever they want. So we have, I'm here right now in this beautiful port near Old Montreal, the Shopify Montreal port. We have a port in Ottawa, one in New York City, we have one in Toronto, one in Berlin. And you can come in anytime you want, or you can work from home anytime you want. But this idea of optionality and flexibility is what we're trying to create with this new version of work, which means that we are able to live anywhere we want. And that gave Lindsay and I, my wife and I, an opportunity to move here. And again, this is day 4 of our new life in Montreal. And we were so happy to be here.
Can I just ask you, with that structure, how do you pay people, people that are doing the same job, and someone who's chosen to live in Manhattan, someone who's chosen to live, an hour north of Montreal? Is that complex? Do you just have a global pay scale now? How do you work that out?
Yeah, we have a global pay scale. That's exactly right. We pay people really great wages to live wherever they want. But if you decide that you're going to move from, a small town to New York City, that is your family decision. It doesn't mean Shopify is not going to give you more money to do so. Gotcha. But we want it. So we sort of create a really great pay scale. We also want to make sure that the people, we want to employ the greatest minds, the most ambitious people on the planet, and have them come do their life's work here at Shopify. And so the talent density of this company is incredibly high. And that's led to Shopify now being, I think, the most, even to date, with the last couple of years and some of the changes in the stock price and the markets, Shopify is still the most valuable technology company in the country. So
Harley, you said 4 days ago, you're back in Montreal as of 4 days ago?
Yeah.
Tell me about that process, getting reacclimated with this city.
Well, it's interesting because the city is different than I remember it. I mean, I left in 2005, so almost 20 years ago. But I'm sitting here at the Shopify office in Montreal, and I realize next door there's Moishes. Moishes opened up right next door to our office here. So I stopped by there. My parents live in Montreal. My grandparents live in Montreal. And so I got Bubby and Zadie dropping by. I got my mom and dad dropping by. My best friends, my childhood best friends, who are like brothers to me, have been dropping by. Last night, my best friend Jeremy and I took our kids to Park, and Antonio Park, one of the greatest chefs on the planet, has this incredible sushi restaurant here. Tonight, we're doing a dance party at one of our friends' houses. I mean, it feels like home. And I think that is I meet these people all over the world that have come from Montreal. And when you ask them about Montreal, something changes in the conversation. There's a sparkle in their eye. They remember this incredible upbringing and culture and that joie de vivre and that energy of the city. And you don't find that in other places. And we love our spot in Toronto, and we love spending time in South Florida. But this is just a different place. And I think in Montreal, you have to intentionally want to be here. You don't necessarily, it's not as if in Ottawa, for example, 30% of the population works for the government. That's not the case here in Montreal. You have to intentionally want to be here and stay here. And I think it's just, there's a reason to do it. So we're really excited about that decision.
So I got to ask you this, because I hear so often people say, well, the political environment, the laws of Quebec will stop people from doing just what you've done. So did you ever think to yourself, oh, well, Bill 96, maybe I shouldn't come to Montreal? Did that ever enter the equation for you when making your decisions? Because I hear from people that say that is happening.
Yeah, it's a great question. And frankly, I'm really fortunate that given my role at Shopify, I get a chance to meet a lot of those very politicians one-on-one and have these conversations and find out, what is the rationale for these things. The truth is, no, that didn't factor into the decision. In fact, I actually would like to, if I can in any way, change the conversation a little bit and the rhetoric around sticks into carrots. I actually believe, mon français n'est pas trop bon. Je pratique. J'essaie de parler en français quand je peux. When I walk into a coffee shop right across the street from the Shopify office here, there's a great coffee shop called Parma Cafe. Beautiful coffee shop. And I walked in this morning and I ordered my coffee in French. And she responded in English because she realized that I'm an Anglophone.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can see it in her eyes. She really she appreciated the fact that I showed respect. And I think French and the bilingualism and the French culture of this province and the city, that's one of the reasons I'm here. It's an amazing place to be, that my children get to be raised in a place that has all this incredible French culture. And so I actually think we should embrace it as opposed to creating legislation that forces it upon us. And I think if you change that rhetoric around, you must do this, to maybe you actually want to do this, I think a lot more people would consider Montreal as a real viable place. But I don't think, legislation is going to be the reason to preserve the culture. I think the culture is preserved when you give people a reason to embrace it. And my family and I, we've embraced it. I want to speak better French. I'm going to take French courses. My kids are going to go to school where they spend half their day in French. I think that's what makes Montreal and Quebec so special. But I think we can get a lot further with carrots than we can with sticks.
Harley, let's just wrap up just talking about Shopify. How's Shopify doing? Tell everyone how Shopify is right now.
Yeah, we're doing great. We right now, Shopify, just in the US alone, we power 10% of all e-commerce. This is a place where, every single day brand new entrepreneurs are created and building great stores on Shopify. And we also power some of your favorite, consumers' favorite brands like Alo Yoga and Supreme behind me, and Viore and Allbirds and Gymshark, and your favorite brands, consumers' favorite brands, are powered by Shopify. And we're the entrepreneurship company. We want to create more entrepreneurs because we think the world is made better with more entrepreneurs. And again, full circle, there is no place that I believe is more entrepreneurial than this city. Montreal is the entrepreneurial place for me.
Harley Finkelstein is president of Shopify. Harley, thank you so much for your time this morning. Great chatting with you. And hopefully we can catch up again.
You got it. Thank you.
All right. That's Harley Finkelstein from Shopify.